The final tool from the suite of join tools we will look at is known as the Append Fields tool. Now this tool will enable us to append fields from a source input to every record in a target input. So each record of the target input will be duplicated for every record in the source input. Now this will become clear when we run through some examples. So you will have noticed that I defined one input as source and one input as target. And this is exactly what the two input options are on the Append Fields tool. The T stands for target and the S stands for source. So let's put some data through the Append Fields tool to see it in action. First of all, we will simply use these two simple text inputs with some data representing department sale targets, and we have a second text input which has the seasons of the year. So we have spring, summer, autumn and winter. Seeing as we know that each target input will be duplicated for every record in the source input, what are you expecting to see as the result? Well, let's drag an Append Fields tool onto the canvas and drag the first table of info into the target input anchor and then the second input dataset into the source input anchor. If we add a browse tool and then run the workflow, you are able to see that we get 4 lines for each department sales target, with a different season for each row. This is because each row in the target stream has been duplicated for each record in the source stream. Now we can also switch these two inputs around and we will obtain a very similar result, apart from the fact that now season is the target column. Now so far, we haven't run into any errors, despite our configuration at the bottom stating that an error will be incurred if too many records are being generated. But seeing as our source tables in both examples are less than 16 records, we are not running into any errors. If you do have appends that require more than 16 records from a source input, you will need to change the drop-down configuration, which is sometimes easy to miss at the bottom here. And this will need to be changed to warn on appends or allow all appends. So let's see this in action with a different dataset. In this next example, I will drag an input tool onto the canvas and we will connect to the city population dataset which we have seen before. We will join this to the target stream of an Append Fields tool and we will also connect our seasons data to the source. When we run this, we get the expected result, with 4 records generated for each record in the target dataset. Now if I copy and paste this, and then switch the target and the source datasets around, you will notice that when we rerun the workflow, we run into an error stating that there were more than 16 records in the source. Now this is true. In fact, we have close to 30,000 records in the source, but this is just a precautionary configuration that we can include. If we were sure that this was the operation we wanted to perform, we would have to change the warn/error on too many records being generated option to be either warn or allow all appends. If we change this to allow all appends and then rerun the workflow, we get the result that we expect. Now it's worth noting that the Append Fields tool can sometimes lead to very large datasets if not used correctly. So if you have 2 small tables with 100 rows in each, the output will end up having 10,000 records, as the Append tool performs what's known as a Cartesian join. So you can appreciate that datasets can become very large when tables have large amounts of records. Now the final thing to note is that the configuration window allows us to change data types, change column headers, size, and so on. So once again, it's essentially like having a select tool embedded within the Append Fields tool, which helps in redefining table structures for subsequent steps of the workflow.